how we know that we're tolerating is that feeling of heaviness. It feels like a kind of a dread. It feels like we're having to like gird our loins. I'm noticing it even as I think about, for me, it's tightness in my jaw. And these are things that we are often rewarded for in our culture. Like, she never gave up, yet she persisted.
Cue music. Places, everybody, places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and as always, it's my honor and pleasure to be with you here on another brand new episode of the Autoimmune Hour. And you can find all the other 475 plus episodes. We're closing in on 500. I'm really excited about that. I did the math the other day, and it's towards the end of the year, but we're going to get there. Anyway, you can find all of the other episodes over at understandingautoimmune.com. And I've got a return guest because I had a question and I thought, who would know the answer? And I said, my dear friend, Bev. So I called Bev, Bev Martin, and she's here. You'll remember her. She's been on the show several times and she's always awesome. But I called her because I thought, like I said, who would know the answer? And my question was, I'm going to go tangential community, okay? For the past month, I've been doing home construction, reconstruction, remodeling, whatever you want to call it. And maybe you've done that. And you can just instantly wince, right? You know that it's not the easiest thing to do. But what was fascinating to me was I was noticing I was getting more and more stressed about things. Things that wouldn't normally bother me were starting to bother me. And I was thinking about that. And then recently it was completed, and I felt absolutely this complete sense of relief. And then I realized I've been tolerating a lot of stuff during this reconstruction. And that was the word that came to me. And I thought, how much also in our wellness journey do we tolerate stuff? And so I want to get into it with Bev Martin. And I'm going to give you her bio because she's awesome. And she is, I'm going to read it because I want to make sure I get it right. She is a trained intuitive, a certified professional coach, a member of ICF International Coaches, a master practitioner of NLP and NLP in health, and a certified facilitator of clean language and symbolic modeling. She's also a certified hypnotherapist, and she just does awesome work. You got to listen to some of the other shows. The last one we had on, we were talking about dreams and getting out and about and dreaming bigger, like how big can our wellness be? So that was great. But I'm feeling like that's where I got stuck in this tolerating almost so much. So let me bring her on and we're going to chat just about tolerating things and why we shouldn't be doing that. Hi, Bev. Thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks for having me back. And I'm chuckling when you say, bring me on to answer this, because I'm like, I think I'll explore it with you, because I sure know what it feels like to tolerate. But I'd be really curious to hear more from you of like, what was going on with your body when you were tolerating this construction?
I found myself at each time between, there were jackhammers involved. So then all of a sudden my body went, and then there were drills involved, and I had flashbacks to dentistry of all things, but these were like humongous kinds of, these were construction kinds of drills, not dental drills. But the noise, it was fascinating to me, the noise. So all of those sorts of things, I found myself just closing in and tightening up and closing in and tightening up. And it went on for almost a month. And then within 24 hours of it being over, I found myself beginning to relax. And that's when I was like, wow, I had been continually building and tolerating, building more tolerating, building more tolerating in a negative way.
Yeah.
And I noticed it was, luckily it didn't cause a flare. but I was noticing it was starting to affect my sleep, and it was starting to affect how I felt, my pain level. And I just started thinking
Hmm.
as it ended, and I felt within 24 hours I could move and breathe and start to relax again. Ask my question of what are we tolerating in our wellness? And I
Right.
know one thing I told you a long time ago was I get to these certain points of my wellness, and I'm like, okay, this is better than that, what I just came through.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll just stay here. That's not a good way to be because then I never would be where I am today of so
Yes.
much better, way beyond whatever the doctor said was going to happen to me. If
Oh,
I had listened to myself and said, this isn't great, but it's better than that. But I
right.
didn't allow myself to dream. And I know last time we talked, we were talking about dreams, but I didn't allow myself to dream as, okay, this is okay here, but can I dream it just maybe even just a
A
little bit higher
little
in the
more?
volume of better?
Yeah. It's almost dare I dream, dare I hope, because there's something in many ways to celebrate that we can tolerate. We think of the whole philosophy of Stoicism, it's based on this. We could put up with anything. But I love your question is like, are there not contexts in which we really should not? Like, are we so becoming so good at tolerating that we're perhaps not letting ourselves realize that there is ease somewhere? Like the way you described, like when the sound of the jackhammer is not there anymore. Ah, wow. Wow. Yeah, so I think of tolerating as I can bear it. And I wonder if having that during this construction, this is a great metaphor and a good example. Were there times during this construction where you could needed to say to yourself, this is not forever?
All the time.
Okay.
And especially as you with a jackhammer, you can see parts disappearing and getting hauled
Yeah.
off and all of that. And yet there was never a full relaxation, even in darkness when everyone had gone to their homes and respective places away from here. I think it was just knowing that was going to start up again tomorrow
Yes.
would never allow me just to completely go,
Oh,
okay.
that was then and this is now.
It
Because
wasn't until that I knew they weren't coming back.
and that the trouble with the symptom or any kind of autoimmune issue or anything that we're dealing with, we don't know for sure that it's over. And so there might be a part of us that stays in that, like, in that stoic place of I'd better deal with this. And yet, what we're looking at with our question is, what if it could be better? Dare we ask ourselves that? Here's what I'm thinking of. Here's what it's reminding me of. And this may or may not bear exactly, but we'll see if it's helpful. Because with everyone who's dealing with or tolerating anything, in a way, it's that stoicism that says, like, I can bear it. And we've achieved some measure of uh, even just a kind of a relief knowing that we can bear it. But we might be getting so good at bearing it that we've forgotten to say, do I need to? Could it be better than this? Even just a little bit, right? There's maybe even a little fear of hoping because, like you said, if it could just be a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit more, we can arrive in a whole different place than we thought we could when we were in bearing it mode. But it does take a certain amount of courage to even dream that even a little bit better is even possible, right? I'm not in the fire or the frying pan, but I'm better than it was. So I think it takes courage to imagine what could be a little bit better. And then perhaps to even compare it, there's a little risk for anyone with a chronic condition to compare where we are now with completely where we were before, if where we were before is completely well. There's a
Right.
little risk, right? Because there's some identity in it. There's like, that's who I was, and this is where I am now. Some of that is part of accepting. But if we compare our new situation with a distant memory, we're going to be disappointed. But I think your question invites us to consider, could we consider a new version of ourselves that's still an improvement on where we find ourselves? Could we be in the new, better, a little bit better, more better, even betterer? And my sense is when we are imagining that, when we're capable of imagining it, our body gets that memo too, to even know
I
what
think we have
would
to
it
be
look like.
careful though of this idea of accepting versus accepting and.
Yes, say more.
I accept where I am now. I accepted
Right.
where I was then.
Yes.
I wasn't in denial about it. I knew there was definitely a problem, and I still know my certain things that I need to be watchful and mindful of. But to
Right.
me, it's instead of just a blanket accepting, for
Mm.
me, it's accepting and.
I love that. Because what you, even as you say that, what I feel is like accepting and is a verb and it's still moving. Whereas if we go accepting, period, we're stuck. We're in the same spot. Whereas accepting and has some fluidity and we're moving in a direction. So this is what it reminds me of working with someone fairly recently, a young woman who has been diagnosed with several, 3 to 4 really daunting things that she's dealing with. And I noticed in her conversation that she had, as she talked about it, she talked about being well and sick, like two squares, each with a label that I was well and now I am sick. And this has got that feeling of like accepting, period.
Mhm.
This is it, done deal. Whereas as you add the and, it's got like, oh, what else could be possible? It's not accepting, but it is being open to levels or degree of more comfort, more ease, more improvement, more joy, honestly, if we go for the big stuff here. My sense is it would require us to be courageous enough to wonder what's beyond that and then even curious about, for each person it's different, but for each person to set themselves an intention. Like if I could have more ease, or if I could have more fill in the blank. So we'll notice it's also on a range like a little, like a light switch going brighter, 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 maybe sometimes back a little dimmer, but it's got that and movement in it that you've identified. It's like a little bit more, or a little bit less, a little bit more, but at least there's movement and we're participating and it's going towards what we want, even if it is slight, subtle, incremental, there's movement happening and it's not like, boom, I sat in the middle of the road and I've accepted my lot. We're participating in the process. So I think daring to dream, there can be a certain comfort level with the devil we know.
Oh, absolutely. It is really easy to get stuck, especially in the early days when I was believing the statistics. I want to put that out as a side asterisk that we can come back to. But one thing, I won't say that they were gaslighting me. Now, I wouldn't say that. They were being, quote unquote, honest with me.
Mm,
Like, Sharon, to be honest with you.
oh
And then
dear.
they would rattle off all these scary statistics. I bet they're scientists. The doctors are scientists, right? I get it. That's the way they communicate. They want
Mm,
you to be practical. They want you to be, the- they don't want you to disappoint it, whatever it is. But I
mm.
never found that helpful because there was never that and there is a bell curve and you could be in part of that 100%. That's
Yeah.
right, gold star, part of the bell curve. Instead, they don't tell you about there are successes over there. They just say with this diagnosis and they give you all these scary things. Luckily for me, my family will tell you I'm a polarity responder, which means for you the community, if you don't know what that means, it's people who go, I'll show you.
I
So,
love that about you.
yeah, you know that about me. So it's a useful thing. My mother would beg to differ raising a child that says, I'll show you. It's not a good thing. But I'm glad my parents never like taught me out of it because one of the things when I heard those statistics almost a decade ago was, yeah, okay, thanks, but no, that's not going to be me.
Yes.
And
Right.
I really took it as an I'll show you.
Yes. It's almost like, oh, thanks for that information, but here's what's true for you.
And holding true to that instead of believing it because it can be tough
Mm.
if you're going to your rheumatologist and they say, and
And
then you go to your oncologist and they say, and then you go to your
right.
primary care who's read the two reports and goes, my goodness, they're all ganging up and saying it's all negative.
Yes. Wow. I just had that today. I had a Zoom call with an OBGYN and I just had some very basic questions. And by the end of the 20 minutes, I was like, okay, thank you for that. As if everything is a fact and this leads to this side effect, and these are the horrible, terrible things that are going to. It's like, woo, it was like a doomsday conversation. And I just had to keep putting in the front of this of the doctor's sentences, in my opinion. And I could step myself back a little bit and go, thank you. I'm open to your opinion, but it doesn't mean it's a fact for me.
And I think that's the thing for me, I always have to be mindful of, is I was raised with the idea of white coat authority.
Yes.
By that, the white coat, doctor's coat. I don't know if they really wear white coats anymore, but in my generation they did. It was sort of like whatever they said was real.
Yes.
And I have learned in this journey of healing from autoimmune and my wellness state. Now I can always get better, but I'm really thrilled where I am now. Is it's opinion. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's real. And the other fascinating thing, especially now, research is happening so fast. I really don't expect my healthcare professionals to keep up on my specific issues with all the latest
Um,
research. And they don't deal with just people with my issues, they deal with a spectrum of people.
yes.
So I need to come in as prepared as possible too, saying, this research sounds fascinating to me. And you guys, please, I have to say this, be very careful where you find your research from. Make sure that they're
Mhm.
reputable research sites. There are plenty on the web, but there's also plenty of silly stuff. So
Mhm.
don't
Mhm.
fall in the rabbit hole of the silly stuff, you guys. Go when you're taking your own research or taking your research to medical professionals, make sure that it's really peer reviewed and real research.
Mhm.
Anyway, that was my asterisk for that.
Oh, good
Back
point.
to our show.
But it sounds like you're really advocating for advocating. Advocate for yourself, get your own information. It doesn't mean you have to have an argument with the doctor, but you can, it becomes a discussion. This is what I know. Thank you for what you know. But my sense is what we're really warning against is a diagnosis becoming a prognosis. Like,
Yeah.
here it is. This is it. And to have Sharon's, what I would call divine rebel, to go like, nope, I'm going to show you,
And I
that
get a
there's
label. I want a label on my coat.
a divine rebel. It's almost like the divine rebel remembers who she really is, and no one can know more about who you came to be than you, because that's your one job. So,
Absolutely. I
yeah.
think it's a continuing job, though. I don't want people to think like I was born this way. Parts of my personality are. You've known me a long time. Yeah, parts of
Yes.
my personality are. But it's also a continuing thirst for and
Yes.
the
Yes.
next verb, the next noun, whatever it is, the next action, whatever it is, to not only help my health, but I've discovered so much that I've shared not only on the show, but with people I meet, that I find it wonderful that we can continue to grow the community to understand that it's not just the physical body in our getting well. Between you and other professionals, when I was at my sickest point, there were times that people didn't think I was going to survive.
I remember.
And yet, as I started to learn and accept other things besides, maybe this isn't just a physical illness, maybe there's more to it. And I realizing that some past life traumas played into it, and how do I release those and let those morph into wellness and well-being lessons, positive lessons, not holding them as negative grudges or lessons. All of that kind of things to me play into healing from things that are long-term and chronic.
You're describing like a healing journey as opposed to just making a symptom go away. And so much of the healing journey is self-awareness, self-discovery. In traditional African shamanism, the way that a person is called to shamanism is they get really sick. That's how you know, oh, here's the healer. So they couldn't possibly help other people heal until they've been through the experience. And it's dangerous. Like it's no, there's no little footnote that says, "Don't worry, you're just sick because you're becoming a healer." They don't know that until they've gone through the journey. So it does. It gets our attention. It has us ask completely different questions of ourselves and of life. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I capable of? What support might I need? This all changes. when we face something like this. So there is so much to gain from a healing journey like this that we don't want to think that is just like, oh, that's the consolation prize. It actually could be the thing.
That's been a very hard concept for me to understand, Bev, because I want to back up a decade. I certainly wouldn't have chosen this off the bingo card.
Heck no, nobody would. Heck no. Yeah, exactly.
I'm
It's your
amazed at where I've
attention.
ended up. Yeah.
And so often, I remember too, when I went through some difficult things in chapters 1 and 2 of my life, and going to get glasses. And they said, and I must have commented, they asked, what, anything going on in your life? And I was like, A, B, and C. And they were like, huh. And the doctor then said, let's not decide a prescription because your vision it changes. And they said, you have an astigmatism. And I was like, what's an astigmatism? They said, a distorted view. Oh, so as a lover of metaphor and symbols, like, oh, what's a distorted view? And could my view become undistorted? And then will it change my prescription? And apparently, yes. So it's moving, it's fluid. We don't just, stop there.
Oh, that's so fascinating. I'm I'm thinking about how many distorted views. The thing that came into my mind was the drilling that was going on. And if you've ever done construction, the drilling through concrete just sounds
Oh,
horrible. And like I said, it flashed a distorted view. All I could think was about dental work I'd had over
oh
the years.
no.
That's that was as that whole noise was going on, the it had nothing to
Oh,
do with my teeth, but my face and mouth got sore that day. It was
yes,
I'm sure I was holding everything clenched, but it was
absolutely.
weird that I had a totally distorted view of what the workers were doing outside.
When you were so sick and you had lots of doctors telling you, here's the deal, Sharon, what do you think it was in you, in addition to your willingness to be a rebel, but what was it in you that helped you to not just accept, okay, this is my life? How did you do that?
Great question. What comes to mind is outside things, actually, to be honest. My kids, uh,
Ah, yes.
a granddaughter at the time. Now I have more grandkids, a granddaughter at the time. Yeah, it was really outside things that I
Mhm.
wasn't done yet. How's that? I think that
That's
comes
it.
to
Oh,
mind.
you just gave me the goosebumps. Yeah, I wasn't
I
done.
Yeah, I wasn't done yet. And then also frustration when I think about starting the show, because I was still quite sick when I started the show. So I was still finding out a lot. I didn't at the time I wanted, but I didn't know this level of wellness of being after a diagnosis like that was possible. That was a progression, guys.
Mm.
That wasn't
But
I was
it
wanting it
sounds
to be incremental. If I could just be this much better.
yeah, but it sounds like you had a question mark that said, could I, or how much better could I be? Like you were still open to consider at some level. Because if you had just accepted it, I suspect that you could still be there.
Oh, yes, easily.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just speaking about my own condition, I know there are other conditions that other things happen with people, but still challenging ourselves, even if it's not physically a transformation that could happen. There are
Mm.
all sorts of ways to challenge ourselves to understand, and from our capacity to educate ourselves or to advocate for ourselves. And it may not be a true physical healing, but there's so much healing that happened on multiple layers for myself, whether it was
Yes.
getting through past traumas, letting go of things, just relaxing into things, not being such a perfectionist. Not that I'm against perfectionism, I still have little glimmers of that in my personality, but yeah, it was allowing and understanding that healing isn't just on the physical level.
Huge. There's something else that comes to mind too, which is the paradox. Because I do think that when we are operating in a human body and we live in a world that one of the things about the English language is that it's so time-based. To make sense of anything, we need to know, was it yesterday? Is it now? will it be tomorrow? We can't orient unless we know like where things are in time. So one of the things that we naturally do as human beings is we put things on a timeline and we say, when this and this and this, then da da. When I've healed, and then when I've got my energy back, and when I feel more like myself, then I will love my life, right? Reasonable plan to make. But I wonder if there's a bit of tolerating in that that says, I've got to have all these things happen before I can have more of what I really want. What if we said, in this day right now, if I had just a little more on my a little sliding scale, just a little more fill in the blank, a little more ease, a little more peace, a little more lightness, a little more fun. And can I have it now? I wonder about just if that is an antidote to tolerating that says, I'm not going to wait for all the things to fall into place. I've decided I want a little more of this now. And because of the way our brains work so wonderfully, as soon as we can see the thing we want more of, we already start to resonate with it and then we create it. I wonder if that's a place to go that might be activating on the and. Right now, it's like move that little dimmer switch and choose what would I like just a little bit more of. Doop, and have it in the moment.
What I find fascinating and brings to mind all the learnings that I've had on understanding on our unconscious mind doesn't understand time.
Exactly. That's
That
why. How about now? So our human self says, I've got to get my degree and do this and do that and then whatever. But we're in present time, our body's in present time.
and
And
my brain doesn't really know what you know
right,
what my chronological age is.
right,
It certainly
exactly.
doesn't act in my chronological age.
Right.
I
I
think
was,
that part's fascinating to me is
yes,
understanding that time is a construct. And I
right. We
like the
make it
idea
up
of if and when I get this, then that will happen is a self-defeating purpose. It is to act
as if in the moment it's a state change. Look at the studies that Deepak Chopra did about time. I think, was it him? Somebody who put people in, like it went back in time to whenever they were incredibly well. It might have been like, say, the 60s. The music was from that time. The magazines on the table were from that time. It was almost like putting someone in a little time capsule of a certain time. And it reflected in their cellular health. It's like their body went, oh, yes, I remember this. And so if we can tailor make the moment, it's all about be present now, but we can choose if this moment could be a little bit more this way that I choose. It's almost like it's instant. As soon as we say, I'd like to have more ease, if you listen to a guided visualization and it encourages us to breathe more deeply, all we did was breathe deeply and we've already have begun to change our state. Your state changed when you woke up and there was not a drill digging in your driveway. It's like, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I noticed a radical quick shift when I realized that they
I
were
love
done,
it.
it was complete, and that noise would not be there
Peace.
anymore. Peace. Yeah, it was like, ah. But acknowledging it too, I think I congratulated myself for getting through it because there were times where I could just
Absolutely.
feel myself tightening with the noise. And so there was a little celebration, internal celebration when they were done. It's like,
You bet.
oh, okay, we're through that. It's over. Don't have to do that for again. So,
So good.
oh, absolutely. And so good. This is a great conversation. We've blown past our commercial break. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk some more with Bev Martin about all things fascinating about health and wellness and what are we tolerating. So we'll be right back. Ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler, and I'm here with Bev Martin. She's a natural and trained intuitive, a certified coach, a member of ICF International Coaching, a master practitioner in NLP. I could go on and on, but you've heard already, she's amazing. She really is able to help clarify my thinking, and I hope our community's thinking. We get beautiful comments about when Bev's on the show about just being able to expand. And I love your use of the word "I wonder." It's really wonderful to me, and I think
Mhm.
about it. Also, our dear friend Sarah Payton uses "I wonder" a lot, and I love the word because it allows for the possibility. And even if I have sometimes beyond the medical authority who were telling me statistics and things, and this was not done out of malice. This was done out of love. Family members, take it easy, do that, don't overdo all that kind of comments when I would knew I was okay. I wanted to try it. Yeah, maybe it was a little bit of a stretch, but you got to
Mhm.
stretch to get to the end, right? But I totally know it was done out of love from the family members because they didn't want to see me back there.
Mm.
But then again, it wasn't all that helpful. I'd rather have a cheerleader. I know they're my safety net. I love them. I'm so blessed to have that safety net between family and friends. I get that part,
Mm.
but also give them all pom-poms and have them be my cheerleaders.
Yes. It sounds like throughout your healing journey, and it's always ongoing, it sounds like you always remembered you. In other words, the part of you that has since a child said, show me, and other aspects of yourself. Because one of the trickiest things with an immune disorder is that our sense of self gets confused. The immune system, in order to function well, needs to remember who we are. So it says, oh, yeah, this is me. And that little virus or whatever the heck it is flying through the air, that is not me. So a sense of this is me, that is not me. The clearer that is, the better. And I think of like so often in medical situations, if we surrender our autonomy or accidentally go like, oh, I'm in a new day, so I need to be a new person for this new situation, I'd be like, no, no, no. Remain who you are. Maybe even more, ask for more, not less. Don't make yourself smaller, make yourself bigger, whatever it takes for you to bring yourself to the moment. Because I think whenever we leave ourselves out of the moment, and even if well-meaning people are putting their impression on it, then what we've got is something that a committee constructed, even no matter how well-meaning they might be, like Frankenstein, they've constructed something, but it's not the essence of our own uniqueness and identity must be there. And I think of the word invalid, and if you see it written, it looks like invalid. So you're right. So it's like, how can we remain valid for ourselves and trust what is valid for ourselves and take any meaning scientific statistics or whatever, say, oh, thank you for that, but we need to be the final person to go, what part of that, oh yeah, that actually is useful and I can use it, or what other part, that's statistic about a whole lot of other people who I don't know, does that automatically mean it pertains to me? The jury will be out on that. That's going to be a question mark, not a fact.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to remember, that at least I've noticed in my healing journey that as much I have amazing medical teams, I've been blessed. And yet what I love about my current medical team is oftentimes they say, I don't know, let's find out. I love that. I
Yes.
love that. But I've also had medical people who were not that open, but I knew that I was not them. And so I think
Yes.
that's the importance is for me, as you do go through a long-term healing journey, the importance is maintaining your sense of identity and true to yourself.
Yes.
That's really been important to me to know what I want. I ran into a medical professional not too long ago who had my medical records, read through them and all of that. And then I know this was very sincere, but I wanted to slap them. Sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry, guys. Sorry,
Mhm.
community. But it went through my head. I did not. I kept that in the inside story. But what happened was they're like, wow, this is, giving you kudos for getting through this. And it was all this pumping up like congratulations and bravo kind of thing. but there was a lack of sincerity about it or a lack of belief.
Mhm.
I mean, I felt like it was trying to come from the right place,
Yes.
but none of that. It was almost like I got the feeling like, "Oh, so are you telling me I'm done, I can stop here? Because I
Mm.
always feel I can get even healthier from here.
Absolutely.
Even if I didn't have a label, I think even if this hadn't happened and I'm here at this age then and here and now, I'd still say I could probably get healthier from here."
See, that's such a useful belief for you. It's based on what you know is true, what you know is possible, what you hope is possible. Like you, it's so forward moving. You're reminding me as you talk about the feedback from a doctor that because it is in that power position, and if somebody does say like, "Oh, good job," it's a little parental, and there are times when we do might need that sense of like, "I'm proud of you," but it's more like we're proud of ourselves for the steps we take. But recently, I gave our dentist feedback about how excellent their language patterns are. I'm so super attentive to language and I'm careful on how people's language affects me. So it was great. I broke a tooth. That part was not great. I broke a tooth on a piece of candy, and all I could think of was dollar signs because it's expensive to go and get a crown and all that. But I have to say that as painful and difficult as getting a crown usually is and expensive, you go and see the first person and they assess the situation. And he was like, "Oh, okay. Ooh, all right." The first message that he gave me was like, "If you had to break it, you broke it. That is fixable." So I came out of there. I know. Instead of because I expected the face like, "Oh boy," none of that. It was like, "Oh, that's fixable. I got you." And that felt great. Go in to actually get the work done, and they're like, "Oh yeah. Oh, this is great. Oh, we can do this. I got you." So the whole message was, "Sorry that that happened. We got you. No problem. It couldn't have been easier." And that was consistent in the whole dental practice. So I went out of my way to thank them for that and just let them know the effect it had on me.
Reminds me of my cheerleader comment. It wasn't
Exactly.
exactly the news you wanted, but it was a cheerleader that
Yes, exactly. It's like, we got you. No, yeah.
so that's amazing, that's amazing. So you're doing good now, right?
Yes, thank you. All done.
Fantastic.
And do not eat sticky toffee anymore.
Yeah, there's certain things. I hate the term women your age, people your age. The older I get, the more I hear that. But there's a little bit of truth to that. I've had to make
Absolutely.
adaptations as we go
Yes, peanut brittle is not my friend.
anymore. But nothing about the peanut brittle industry, okay? I love peanut,
I
but you're right. We have to be more mindful of how and when we eat it. So anyway, now we were talking about tolerating things, and I just want to circle
Mhm.
back to that. And we have about 13 or 14 minutes left. I want to talk a little bit more about tolerating things. Do you have any thoughts on how we would know that we're tolerating? Because sometimes I find
Yes.
I stay stuck in places a little bit longer than I should. And this is
Mm.
not anything to do with my health. I had to make a phone call. And it was a phone call I was dreading. I really was dreading it, and honest to gosh, it went on a month, and I kept saying, "You know what? The longer it goes on, the harder it's gonna be to
Oh,
do." So yesterday, I sat down and I made that phone call. It was interesting, it was right after the relief of the workers leaving. All of a
yes.
sudden, I felt the strength again or something. I don't know what it was, but it was that release, and I said to myself, If I feel this released after those workers leaving, how relieved will I feel if I just make that phone call?"
Yes.
So I made the
Wow.
phone call, wasn't as awful as I thought. Oddly enough, they agreed with me on the first kind of opening paragraph, and I was just like, "Wow, I have been waiting a month to make this phone call," and it turned out very satisfactory to all parties after the phone call. And I've been thinking to myself, how many times do I make these stories bigger than they are, including
Yes.
my house stories? Am I making them bigger than they are?
Yeah. And I think how we know that we're tolerating is that feeling of heaviness. It feels like a kind of a dread. It feels like we're having to like gird our loins. I'm noticing it even as I think about, for me, it's tightness in my jaw. And these are things that we are often rewarded for in our culture. Like she never gave up, yet she persisted. But we're considering, are there times when this level of persistence is not good for our health? I think the body lets us know. And then I love the way you asked yourself questions like, hey, if this felt this way, could I have this feeling of relief in another area? So you reflected with yourself, you talked to yourself as you were your own best cheerleader, and it's a possibility thought. Huh, this is possible in this department. Is it possible in this one? And my sense is your body showing you or giving you the relief and the release and the reward of, oh, that feels so good. It is like, wow, if that feels so good, could there be more where that's coming from? So I love how you did some self-reflection and you asked yourself that kind of question. Like, is this possible? Let's give it a whirl. And I wonder if there's a math equation. I have to laugh when I talk about math because that's it. That's all I know about math is the word. But I wonder if there's some kind of equation that says, is holding on to this more expensive for me in the long run than the perceived stress of having the freaking phone call and letting it go? Like we're weighing up the balance, and it seemed like when you actually had the phone call and realized the reward it gave you, that if you had known now what if you'd known then what you know now, you might have shortened that timeline.
Oh, not might, I would have.
Yes.
Not might, I
Yes.
definitely would have. And I think to myself now, it's like, why did I wait so long? It's fascinating to me. And that brings me back to this idea of tolerating.
Yes.
If is this place where I'm at right now, whether sometimes it's level of pain or something like that, it's I want to always ask myself these days, I don't want to tolerate it. I want to
Yes.
learn to ask myself fairly soon in the process, like, okay,
Right.
am I tolerating something? And if I am, what is it?
Yes.
And what can be done about it?
And it's almost like that easy button. Remember, I don't even know if that store still exists, but it was like that was easy. They had the easy
Oh,
button.
the red thing. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I
And
think we're
so,
showing our age, but yeah, it was
yeah,
a great.
that question, like, could this be easier? Or what if this was easy? Like something that we're like I'm going to say as you wondered why it took you so long to have that phone call was like because you were dreading it and it didn't seem like it would be fun. And yet, as soon as you did it, like the result was the reward. It was like, oh, so one way I advocate with intuitive work is because our body doesn't know what time it is, our body is in the moment for the most part. You can do a dress rehearsal. You can go, how will I feel when I've had that conversation and it went just the way I wanted it to go? Your body will give you a hint of that relief. It'll be like, oh, that would be great because your imagination can do that. So, in a way, you can have a little preview of that is going to feel great. Let me use some of that to help me to have the phone call and get there a little bit sooner. But because that the sense of having a difficult conversation, I had to do this recently too. And I procrastinated and I dragged my heels. And it was similar to yours. When I phoned the person that I had to have the difficult conversation with, she beat me to the punch and said, I've been thinking, how about this? It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't have to like do the whole thing. And I felt like I lost 20 pounds with the ease as a result. Imagination could assist us there. It's like, let's imagine I've had the call and it feels better. Okay, good. Can I use some of that little energy boost to actually do the thing?
I'm thinking that would be fun. I loved with your body language, you use a dial turning of the knob type of idea.
Yeah.
And next time we all have pain, but I'm just thinking, what if I dialed with that? I'm going to play. I'm not going to say what or
Mm.
if or what. I'm going to play with a volume dial. And I think that would be really fascinating to say whether it's pain or tolerating feelings or
Yes.
whatever feelings it is, or physical, mental, emotional, whatever feelings it is. I think I'm going to try and I am not going to try. I'm going to
Going
install
to.
a little
Yeah.
volume knob or your dimmer
Yes.
switch. I love the dimmer switch metaphor too. That was great. I'll install both of them because who knows, one might work better
Yeah.
than
Yeah, it's like turning the lights up and down, turning the sound up. Yeah, probably we're dating ourselves there too, because remember that's how you would find the radio station back in the day.
right, with a knob. I think now it's a button or a slide or a slide on your screen, right?
Yes, now it's done differently. Or hey Siri, even through childbirth and labor, I was lucky enough to get to use acupuncture for childbirth, even in the hospital, because my husband is the practitioner. And he hooked me up with a machine that I could turn the knob to increase or decrease the amount of pain relief that the acupuncture, the electroacupuncture was providing. And the feeling of control in a circumstance in which there was not much other feeling of control, that really helped, the sense that I could turn the knob. So I love that you're installing that knob because your imagination can use it just as well. And it says, what can I control this? Can I make it a little bit more, a little bit less? What fun.
Now, just in our last 5 minutes, I want to talk about this idea of control. I think we've hit on something about tolerating things. What is within my control? And I want to say it all is,
Yes.
whether it's your perception has to change or whatever. I think it all is. So, what are your thoughts on helping someone feel or accept more control?
Mm. I think having a metaphor like a switch can really help because we are used to controlling things. I control the lights, I can control the temperature. So even just the notion, okay, I am more in control than I think. This is not completely happening to me. I am not entirely a victim of a thing. Even though, let's be really kind to ourselves, there are certainly times in the healing journey when we can feel that way.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
yeah,
There were times, especially early on,
absolutely.
things were happening that were
That
beyond my
were,
control.
and they're happening to us. And
Yeah.
so there is a call for inner kindness. It's like, oh, when things are happening to us, we absolutely be ever so gentle, ever so kind, and still ask for more, not less. But even just the notion of, okay, what can I control? I think there's some wonderful quotes about people even going through dire historical things that said, I cannot control what's happening to me, but I can control my attitude. It's like, ah. So there's always some element of it that I think the divine rebel would also say, I might not be in charge of that, but I'm in charge of this. And so having that switch that says, could I have it just a little bit more ease or a little more lightness or a little more warmth, or what would assist? And that sense of I'm the boss of me and I can get at least that. I think that's empowering.
So funny you say I'm the boss of me. My mother says that was one of my favorite things as a child.
Yes, it
It's
was.
and I haven't said it out loud in years, but when I heard you say it, it rang so true with me.
Yes,
It was just gave me chills as if it brought me home.
I love that. And I do think your little hands have got to be on your hips.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, hands on hips. So, anyway, this is awesome. I want to give us time for some final thoughts. Your wisdom is always so wonderful and inspiring. What are some final thoughts about today's topic, or actually anything that enters your
Mm.
mind that you'd like to share?
I would say that call for inner kindness is always necessary, just that gentleness with ourselves, and then self-reflection. Always having a conversation with ourselves. I'm always advocating that we stay really in touch with ourselves and who we are. And then a level of lightness that when things are heavy, we need not be. And that can sometimes seem counterintuitive. That can be one of those things that we say, when this and this and this and this is all sorted out, I will be light. And from my own perspective, from a spiritual perspective, I go, start with being light, because then all the thises that we have to deal with, we come at it in a different way. So lightness, kindness, and question mark and instead of period.
I love it. Now, where they can find you, give us your website and any other information about the kinds of things you do share with your audience and your
Yes,
community.
sure. So our website is bevmartin.com. And mostly I'm doing readings and coaching. Readings is a spiritual perspective in which we're really listening in this curious way to a part of ourselves that is unlimited and marvelous and wonderful. And we help that part to inform our day to day. And so readings and then coaching. Often coaching is typically when we're navigating something, and you could do with someone in your corner to be both the cheerleader. I like to think of it as having a mirror and a flashlight to help each person to see what's so good, true, and beautiful about how you're navigating. And then our little flashlight to see like, oh, did we miss a resource or a helpful something? Let's be sure to find that. And so both of those kinds of work is fun and playful. And then later this year, I'll be offering my intuition class called Intuition on Purpose. And there'll be more about that on the website in the next few months.
Thank you so much, Bev. And I just want to pop in on, I had a flashback to one of our sessions that we had, and I want to share it with the audience because maybe we are, maybe the little prelude to maybe our next show. Because I'm thinking when you said that, we had a marvelous time. This was several years ago. I can't even remember how long ago. It was definitely what I call BC, before COVID. But anyway, but I was thinking about this wonderful time Bev and I were talking, and she helped me uncover this place where I had gotten stuck for a little bit, of this place of may I instead of I am.
Mm.
And that, guys, was just a revelation of taking back some of ownership of myself. That was one of those turning points, and Bev was part of that in helping me uncover that part of like, oh my gosh, I've been working from this place. It wasn't who I am, working from this place of may I instead of stepping into I am. And I found that really helpful too. So if you're in one of those places where you're like, it's over at bevmartin.com. You can find out all about her and also schedule an appointment with her over there. And thank you so much, Bev, for sharing your
Thank
wisdom and
you so
just
much,
sharing.
Sharon.
I had a
Great to
great,
see you, and thank you so much.
absolutely. Everyone, have a great week. Whatever your adventures, join me next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.